Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Ohio State's Esports Arena here in Lincoln Tower. My name is Braden Nost, joined today here by Daniel, and we have an amazing matchup for CLOL this week between Ohio State and Illinois State University.
Yeah, both teams are 4-1 right now, so I'm expecting a pretty good match here. We got a little sneak peek into the pregame lobby. There was a lot of buffoonery happening, so I think we're going to see some action between these two teams.
Yeah, I actually had a chance to sit down with the team manager for Ohio State yesterday, Michael Ferrone, and talk about the match. He said that there's a lot of playoff implications. OSU basically needs to win to get into the playoff bracket today, so it's definitely a really big match, I think, for both teams. Definitely a high level of competition and should be a really exciting series.
Yeah, we're definitely looking forward to it, and we're going to get into the draft here. So starting off with a Zillion ban on the Ohio State side of things.
Yeah, he's seen a lot of play recently, especially being picked up in the mid lane, as well as being flexed to the support role occasionally. He just fits really well into a lot of team comps right now, where you don't need a ton of damage coming from mid lane, and instead you can opt into a lot of utility and really just prevent the enemy team from really getting any space or getting too close to your team.
Yeah, following up with Corki and Thresh bans, I think, are nothing too out of the ordinary. Those champs have been meta for a while, so.
Yeah, Corki and now Zeri as well. Both got hit with some nerfs in the past couple patches, really, but still really prominent. Still have a lot of range, especially on that Corki, and the Zeri just able to weave in and out of fights really easily. Both very safe picks, I would say, and also very versatile to pick up early in the draft. So they're definitely good bans, especially in this first rotation, to take away for the side of Ohio State.
Yeah, so we got one last ban coming in from Illinois State, and they'll decide to take away Jinx. Once again, very meta pick. Not too surprising.
Yeah, pretty much, the best ADC currently, with Zeri especially being banned in most games, definitely between those two, and most of the time we don't get to see the Zeri usually banned out in that first phase, so not surprised at all to see that taken away as well. Illinois State not really willing to give that up for the first pick, which it very often is on the blue side.
All right, and it looks like teams are going to grab some, I would assume, bot laners. Lulu's grabbed on the Ohio State side. Aphelios and hovering Graves. They are going to pick Graves for the Illinois State side. So, once again, Graves can be a bit of a flex pick sometimes. So.
Yeah, and the Lulu even as well. I know, especially with Inferno playing a decent amount of mid lane before swapping up to top. It's not a super unsurprising pick to see here, given that it can be played, especially more mid lane historically, and so I wouldn't be surprised if he has some proficiency on the champ as well, and they'd definitely be able to flex it around depending on how the rest of the draft goes.
Yeah, and talking about the rest of the draft, it looks like a Caitlyn pick is going to come in. That's been a really popular ADC as of late too. The range, I think, is one of the really big things that Caitlyn has going for her.
Yeah, she has a lot of that early lane pressure, and so especially up against the Aphelios that Illinois State opted into so early, it makes a lot of sense to try and pressure him early, keep him shoved under his tower, and not really give him the easy agency to scale into the mid and late game. And even seeing that Caitlyn pick as well, though, it definitely, I think, takes away more opportunity for Lulu to go into that bot lane. I don't think it's great to have those two paired up down there, and so it makes me think that OSU is more inclined to put that in one of their solo lanes here. But we'll have to see as the draft continues. Typically, that Caitlyn wants a lot of that hard lockdown CC that she's able to pick up and use to place down her traps and get a lot of free headshots off.
Yeah. Really solid game plan, and we're going to see more bans coming around here in round 2. Vex and Poppy on each side are both banned.
Yeah, the Vex is a super strong pick, especially for Shun. I know he really liked playing it on release, and I don't think he's let down too much on that play rate. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's one of his most played champs, especially in solo queue. Syndra as well, another pretty standard pick. She fits really well into a lot of team comps, and so even though she might not be the strongest mid laner in the current meta, I think it's definitely still a good blanket ban for Illinois State if they're not too worried about any specific pick.
Yeah, certainly. We've seen a lot of meta bans so far, so there is one ban left. So we're waiting on Ohio State to see what the last ban of this game will be. And it will be Gragas. Very popular top laner. Just the healing and the resilience he has just keeps him in lane for so long. So
Yeah, very interesting. With those Poppy and Gragas bans, OSU looking like they want to opt into a pretty hard engage comp. The Poppy especially, is more of a direct counter to Viego as well in the jungle. That is most likely going over to Miller, being one of his most popular picks. And so just taking away that initial counter pick, it gives him a lot more comfortability in the jungle and a lot more freedom to do what he wants. And the Gragas as well is really big for disengage. With that Sona locked in, especially in the bot lane, Illinois State's looking pretty squishy in this game, and so it'll be, much easier for them, for Ohio State to hopefully engage and blow up the whole team really quickly, given that they don't have many tools to disengage, which that Gragas would really give them.
Yeah, and the squishiness just continues with almost no, really bulky champs being picked on either side so far.
Yeah, the Akali I really like to see locked in. The Azir as well means that it's most likely going to Inferno, which is no surprise. Again, being, having so much mid lane experience, he's obviously very proficient on it, and it works well in the top lane, especially into the Graves. I think we've seen a decent amount of it in pro play. Players willing to opt into that matchup, and I think it works really well into this Illinois State comp that doesn't really have a lot of reliable CC. They've got the Sona ultimate and the Victor W, but both of those, can definitely easily be dodged around. And if they're having to hold those for the Akali specifically, I think it gives the Azir and Viego a lot more ability to get on the rest of the team that Akali might not even need to carry that load.
Yeah, Akali's definitely a threat as far as engaging and starting team fights like that. She's such a great burst champ that just deals so much damage so fast. Sometimes it just leaves you with nothing left.
Yeah, and so, with this draft being done, I'd say final thoughts on it is that Illinois State is going to, I think, struggle if they go even in this game. They're going to struggle in the 5v5 where OSU will have a lot of different angles, especially if they can position well with the Akali, Viego, and Azir to get a lot of backline access easily. And hopefully blow up this comp. Otherwise, Illinois State does have the range to potentially just poke out OSU and take, if they're able to control the fights, I would say, and keep their distance. I think it's definitely a good way for Illinois State to play this one out and try and grab the dub for themselves.
Yeah, and they also have Xin Zhao, which is a very aggressive jungler in the meta right now, so they could look to secure some early leads with ganks from him as well.
Yeah, I think early leads are going to be big for them. It's going to be interesting to see if they try and play around their bot lane. Typically Xin Zhao wants to get as much agency as he can, and so, going for the bot lane where there's obviously 2 kills available potentially is typically one of his go-tos. But with that Aphelios and Sona down there, they're going to be much weaker, especially into a Caitlyn lane. But it will help alleviate, hopefully, some of that pressure that the Caitlyn will be putting on them, trying to push them onto their tower and stuff. And so it definitely works, I think, in that regard.
Yeah. Well, with the conclusion of the draft here, I think we are going to take a short break. We're going to see you after the spectator delay in-game soon.
Welcome back, everybody, for Game 1 of today's CLOL series. Getting ready to jump onto the Rift. Should be an exciting Game 1, and we'll have to see how these teams establish their tempo going into Game 1. I think it's going to be big in these best-of-3 series. As much as people like to think that they're able to, it's always difficult to avoid tilting, and, your mentality is definitely a big part of how you play, and so I think it'll be interesting to see if either of these teams is able to get off to an explosive start. But for right now, it looks like both teams taking a pretty standard 5-point start.
Yep, just looking to deny information, keep people out of areas they don't want them to be in. So nothing too surprising at the start of this game. No early 5v5s by the looks of it.
Yeah, Tempo's time gonna grab that early ward in the bot lane bush down there. It'll help them a lot with that Caitlyn and Lulu down there pushing in, just to be able to keep an eye on them. And even if they are being pushed in, as having eyes on them can still help a lot to know whether or not Cyborg may be roaming or, just that they may be looking for pressure, maybe looking for poke. With that Caitlyn's long range, it's easy for her to try and find opportunities from the bushes.
Yeah, and it looks like OSU are grouping up here. They're going to look for a little bit of an opportunity, but there's nobody waiting for them on the Illinois State blue buff side. Xin Zhao starting on his top side red. Could grant a free blue buff to Ohio State, though, because there's no one to contest it.
Yeah, OSU look like they're just going to grab this blue buff away. Xin Zhao is going leashless on that top side red buff. So they did have to wait a second there because they, weren't quite sure. But I think once the bot lane showed for the side of Illinois State, they felt pretty safe. And Miller just going to grab that one away. We'll have to see how GFB responds.
Yeah, this is a really rough start for the junglers, because now for the Illinois State side jungler, because now not only does Viego claim a bunch of his camps, but also Viego's going to know when those camps respawn, and especially when it comes to the buff, that gives him information on where Xin Zhao could be at any given time.
Yeah, I think we'll have a big swing here once Xin Zhao finishes up these Krugs and probably Raptors as well. Whether or not he decides to go into the topside jungle of OSU, or if he isn't sure about it and doesn't make that move, ends up wasting time in his bot side, could set him really far behind, which for an early game jungler, like you mentioned with the Xin Zhao, to lose some of that pressure like that would be big. But it looks like he is headed towards the blue buff.
Yep. Illinois State is aware of what's happening, and he's definitely going to go in on this blue buff. And yeah, this bot lane, we've seen a lot of skirmishing, but there's not a lot of kills coming in for anything anywhere yet. So
yeah, Shun and Drew in the mid lane, just kind of both trading evenly. They both started with that corrupting pot, and so both having about the same power. No one getting super ahead there. Both just really looking to scale into mid game, as we do see a trap land for Steve, taking a lot of abuse on the side of Illinois State, as Steve and Cyborg finding a lot of nice poke and some sneaky traps there.
Yeah, that's going to set them far back behind their tower, and keeping the minions pushed up just gives Illinois State like the risk of just missing out on CS, which you never want to do to start off games.
Yeah, Tempo's already out of mana on the Sona. A really big victory for OSU. She's not going to be able to keep up the sustain and poke that she has earlier on in the lane to keep it pretty even. And so now OSU should look to really push their advantages. Nuclear walking pretty far up.
Yeah, Nuclear was trying to push something in, but instead his health bar is going to be the thing that's pushed in.
And Miller's down there as well, maybe looking for a dive.
Oh yeah, Miller's going to go in for this, but and a good exhaust from the Sona keeps him off their back, and looks like the opening kill is not going to be claimed yet.
Yeah, but Nuclear blowing, both the summoners there, the exhaust as well for Tempo's time. Again, OSU already pushing this massive advantage in the bot lane, taking full advantage of this really weak early game from Nuclear and Tempo's time. Steve already able to grab a plate down there and take a nice reset, up almost 10 CS here just at 4 minutes.
Yeah, Drew Dozer here is not having a good time in his mid lane either, getting pushed under tower and almost ganked by Viego.
Yeah, GFB gonna just look for a reset here, trying to keep tempo with this Viego. Still up a few CS, luckily did catch on to Miller grabbing some of his bot side, and so he's kept up so far with Miller taking that bot gank as well. And not getting a kill, obviously, just in the jungle 1v1, being a bit ahead. But now Cyborg looking in the mid lane.
Yeah, this support roaming could claim a kill, but instead it just claims the flash, which in a roam like that, you're still pretty happy when you get a summoner spell like that.
Yeah, I really like Cyborg's early ignite there. Even though OSU didn't really have the kill pressure yet, he was still at about 60% HP. It just puts that mental pressure onto Drew there, and so he does have to flash out early, knowing that, they're looking to kill that ignite. But Miller looking in the bot lane now.
Yeah, we're about to get a 3v3 in this bot lane, and Miller's going to be on the receiving end of a lot of damage to start it. Lulu from Cyborg is just going to get pinned down too, and Illinois State might come out on top in this opening exchange. Sona claims the first blood. And Best Steve is rooted under tower, and they're cowering here as all they can do is watch as Illinois State takes the kill and then reclaims vision control of the area.
Yeah, unfortunately, Miller just wasn't, I don't believe, on a reset, and so GFB was definitely stronger than him there. Steve as well caught a bit out of position by the Xin Zhao down there, ended up having to take quite a bit of time to move back to position himself away from Illinois State, and lost out, I think, on a lot of damage. So even with that, the early fight advantage that OSU has over the Illinois State bot lane, with the bad positioning, not able to fully take advantage of that, and Illinois State, does a good job of capitalizing.
Yeah, and they continue to fight back against this bot lane push from Ohio State. And something interesting, we haven't talked about it too much, but Graves has a slight lead on CS in the top lane, but another thing to look at is Akali has bought Darkseal already. So if she's able to secure an early lead and start building that up, that could be a horrible, horrible thing for Illinois State to deal with later on.
Yeah, obviously the range. We see GFP, though, now with no vision, OSU might be in trouble.
Ooh, a good polymorph from Cyborg keeps GFB off his back, but GFB is still able to claim Caitlyn, and it seems like Shun is just able to keep Illinois State off of them, preventing them from grabbing his second kill, but once again, that's the bot lane from OSU kind of getting caught out in a bad position with little to no awareness of the enemy jungler.
Yeah, they just walked up too far with Illinois State having that pink ward in the river bush. Definitely got greedy there, trying to shove the wave in and use their early pressure. Now Inferno, though, maybe looking on to Disconnector.
Yeah, Inferno definitely dishing out some damage, but Graves managed to just keep his distance enough. He's not going to go down yet. So, no kills in the top lane still, no Dark Steel sacks. So.
Yeah, like you were mentioning earlier, though, Graves does have that advantage, pretty much to be expected, I think, early on with the range advantage over Inferno. But I do like the Darksteel pickup for Inferno. It's risky, but looking for an early kill potentially before Graves finishes what most likely is going to be a Hullbreaker first item is definitely a good idea for him, I think, to look to snowball on this top side, because after that it's going to be a lot harder for them to find opportunities onto Disconnector, and they don't want to lose too much side lane pressure.
Yeah, Disconnector's going to go in because he's become aware that OSU's jungler is taking the red buff, but unfortunately, he's there too late. OSU escapes, and that's another buff lost for Xin this game.
Yeah, Tempo's time getting a bit aggressive onto Steve here. Not really much OSU's able to do in response, and so Steve's now just going to head back down to bot lane with Cyborg. Shun headed back to mid lane as well, just covering up there for a while, but nothing too much going to come for it, as now Miller might be in a sticky situation.
Yeah, there looked like the potential to be a mid gank or just an overall fight for either side there, but they both kind of decide to back off, decide they don't want to lose tempo, and the risk is just too heavy, so.
Yeah, Steve and Cyborg, despite having two pretty rough plays down here, though, still getting that push into Nuclear in Tempo's time, trying to keep the pressure on and, you know, keeping up a CS advantage, as small as it may be, still exerting as much pressure as they can and trying to stay even with this Aphelios, who's looking pretty scary now.
Yeah, they're certainly building up something, but as for now, Steve is still going to have a bit of an advantage. Still has level 6 before Nuclear does. I don't know if they're going to be able to take advantage of that, though, because this wave is going to go down. And yeah, Nuclear grabs level 6, so not too much more to say there.
Concerned as well about GFD being on the bot side, as they should. He's still on the Wolves, but as far as they know, he could be headed towards the bot lane. And so not really able to push that wave all the way in there is going to cost them a couple CS. But now it looks like they've got the wave in a decent spot. GFD hopping on the Dragon, and OSU's bot lane maybe just looking to take a reset here.
Yeah, bot lane getting pushed a little bit, and the Lulu and Caitlyn getting pushed behind allows him to take Drake, but Viego in the meantime is going to be able to objective trade. He is fighting an uncontested Rift Herald right now, so.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if OSU's able to, you know, recognize that GFD isn't on the bot side of the map here soon. Before Illinois State's bot lane is able to recall, maybe look for a potential fight, as Nuclear is still, you know, a little bit behind with only the double longswords there in items. Until he takes another reset, OSU may be able to find another opportunity, but being on those Krugs down there, just gonna really, you know, blow the lead even bigger down there for the side of Illinois State.
Yeah, Disconnector is getting bullied a little bit up here. The Rift Herald's here, and so is 3 members of Ohio State, but the mid laner is going to return to mid to deal with the Victor, but this Rift Herald's still going to deal some heavy damage.
Yeah, both teams really just taking an equal opportunity here, as OSU Inferno is going to go on with the perfect execution.
Ooh, a beautiful play from Akali and from Viego there. They're able to claim the life of Illinois State's top laner, and there's 2 stacks on that Dark Seal now.
Yeah, Inferno looked like he was able to really, you know, perfectly get an animation cancel off there with the second cast of his ult and his flash there. Able to not take a last tower shot there that might have killed him, but now OSU's bot lane looking like in a bit of trouble as GFD may be looking for a dive here.
Yeah, GFB is certainly in a great position, and a stun from the Sona ult is able to claim the life of OSU Cyborg. Steve is left alone under the tower with 3 people around him. I don't know if he's long for this world.
Yeah, Inferno does make it down there, but not in time to save Cyborg, as he was the one to go down. Got hit by the crescendo, and so it was pretty easy for them to lock him down and get him before they needed to get out of there. Inferno not able to show up in time and really take advantage of any of that. Plus, with no flash or ult that they just used up in the top lane, didn't really have a lot of tools to work with.
Yeah, well, Miller looks like he wants to move in on this mid lane, and he is going to catch GFB a little bit, but Drudozer throws in a laser, able to keep a lot of damage on OSU and keep them off of their tail.
Yeah, Shun TP'd back to mid with not quite full HP and, ended up getting hit by Drew under the tower there for quite a bit, down to about half HP as soon as he got back to lane. And so unfortunately, OSU isn't really able to commit to a fight there super easily without being worried about just losing it because of all that HP that he was down.
Yeah, and one thing to look at here is Illinois State's actually claimed a lot of plates. And as far as like the early lead win condition that we're talking about for Illinois State, that looks good for them.
Yeah, the almost 2,000, actually just about 2,000 gold lead that they have now is not great for OSU. Illinois State definitely has some pretty hard scaling champions in the Aphelios and the Victor. Even the Graves in the side lane is going to be quite a force to be reckoned with OSU not having a true split push presence besides the Sakali that, really wants to have more access to Illinois State's backline as opposed to having to deal with this Graves later on in the game. And so, unfortunately for OSU, it's not looking too great as of right now, unless they can make a play, which Miller's looking for right now on the bot lane.
Yeah, Miller looks like he's going to respond to all of the action that Xin Zhao's seen down the game. Oh, and a tower dive is going to be the perfect opportunity to Miller come in here. He's going to be able to deal a lot of damage, but good healing. It keeps Sona alive for just a bit longer. Miller is able to claim the life, but Aphelios gets a double kill. And they're able to claim the life of Nuclear here, but that's 2 more kills to the Aphelios, and feeding him more and more is going to become a problem.
Yeah, Miller able to grab a few assists there and, trade back a few kills for OSU. Overall, not terrible. Able to keep himself alive there as well with the Sona, the Aria of Perseverance, in that, in the possession. Otherwise, he may have died there. So the healing coming in clutch and allowing OSU to go pretty much even there. But like you mentioned, the Aphelios still getting really scary. Loves getting those trade kills early on in this game, especially. So, not a terrible result for OSU, but certainly not what they would have liked.
Yeah, it's certainly... No team has a huge glaring advantage right now, but also Illinois State claiming that bot tower gives them a little bit of an advantage as far as pressure on the map is concerned.
Yeah, and Steve also down about 20 CS already. That early advantage, that early push that OSU had going kind of got thwarted by the Xin Zhao ganks early on and all the consistent pressure that Illinois State was able to bring to the bot lane, successfully getting their Aphelios Sona, who are just so weak earlier on in the lane, pretty safely through that super early phase. And now OSU is having to deal with the consequences, only being able to trade even with this Aphelios as Steve goes about half HP there.
Yeah. Now they're going to be aware of this control ward. The vision control is going to be granted to the red side on that bot jungle for blue, but this is just a precarious situation here because there's a lot of players for Illinois State in mid, and unfortunately OSU doesn't have quite the numbers here, so they could be losing another tower in maybe kills. Yeah,
Cyborg taking about half his health there from the death ray. Nuclear Gale forcing in even onto Steve as he takes one, but now Shun going in.
An amazing Azir ult knocks back 3 people, keeping them under the tower, and we're going to go into a fight here. Miller is able to claim some people's lives and turns into a Sona, able to claim 1 more. Drudozer and GFP, the only 2 survivors from the fight there in Illinois State in mid lane, and that was a good look from Ohio State. Azir got a good flank and started the fight well.
Yeah, OSU took a couple rough hits there, specifically onto Steve and Cyborg from the Victor, but Miller and Shun able to make a really nice turn onto that and really even out the fight when it wasn't looking great at all to start out with.
Yeah, well, it's good from Ohio State because they lost a lot of the skirmishes and everything that we've seen beforehand, either getting pushed back and that kind of stuff, but now they've been able to reverse the pressure on the mid lane a little bit. Even though they lost their tower, it's great to win the fight on the kills.
Yeah, worth noting that Graves does have that Hull Breaker complete up in the top lane, and so he's probably feeling much more confident about his solo laning right now, or his side laning rather, at this point in the game. GFD, though, looking onto Steve here maybe for this red buff.
Oh, an amazing smite from GFP steals the buff from Best Steve, and they're going to almost get into a fight here. CFB was very close to killing Steve, but luckily Ohio State, aware of what's going on, was able to back him up and keep him alive.
Yeah, between Tempo's time, keeping him healed and shielded up a bit. He also had to pop the Crescent Guard there just to stay away from the Caitlyn damage, as he did step into a trap there. Probably would have taken a decent chunk, and so, a nice cooldown for OSU to grab out of him there, stepping up a bit too far after already grabbing the red buff.
Yeah, so we have quite an even game as far as kills are concerned, but unfortunately Illinois State they have 2 dragons up on Ohio State already, which is going to be really bad if we look to get this early Ocean Soul for Illinois State.
Yeah, Ocean Soul, not the best option here for Illinois State. Typically a very strong soul, but apart from the Sona trying to extend these fights, being so as squishy as they are, they're often going to be taking some of these shorter fights and can be blown up pretty quickly without that Ocean Soul having much effect for them. And so in a game like this, they would probably rather have something like the Infernal, but...
Ooh, an amazing bush camp from Ohio State takes out GFB, and Tempo's Time is going to be in a lot of trouble. Tempo's Time goes down too. Nuclear is trying to trade back on the Caitlyn, is successful, but will go down. The Lulu OSU Cyborg claims the kill, and a 3-for-1 trade for Ohio State once again is now they're taking a Rift Herald.
Yeah, OSU finally finds that fight that they were looking for, like we talked about so much in draft, able to find some good angles and blow up that backline that Illinois State has. So, it's so fragile, and so they were able to find an angle and just take advantage of it really quickly. Like I was mentioning, even, being so far up, they just don't really have the defensive tools that they need if they take a bad fight. And so OSU takes great advantage of that. Gonna grab this second Rift Herald off it as well and be pretty happy now, down only about 2k gold, cutting it in half.
Yeah, it's a great thing to walk away from. You always feel good because you know that you're falling behind in those situations, but it keeps you in the game when you get those. You're like, oh, yeah, that's right. If we find the right scenario, we could still win this game.
Yeah, exactly. Nuclear gonna grab the red buff here from GFD. Illinois State looking to put all of their eggs into his basket at this point in the game. Drew as well, sitting on just under 2 items, thinking he's probably grabbing those bot side camps to reset for a second item here. Maybe that Shadow Flame before this Ocean Drag comes up, as it's going to be a big fight down here. They could potentially decide the game at this 3rd dragon. If Illinois State's able to secure it, it puts so much undue pressure onto OSU to contest that next dragon and be able to win a fight in 5 minutes no matter what. Whereas OSU could really shift the tide of this and be able to create an advantage of their own, which they really haven't had since OSU lost control of bot lane early on in the game.
Yeah, OSU's been struggling a bit, but they've been finding the ways to get back in the game with all that considered. And it looks like Azir is going to be in this top lane. They're fighting Disconnector, but Disconnector has got a lot of health and a lot of durability, and he's just not quite going to go down quick enough to Azir.
Yeah, between those Hullbreaker resistances and the Hex Drinker and Merc Treads, he knows that he only has to really deal with this Azir and Akali in the side lane, and so some really nice pickups for him mean that he can't really be punished in the side lane. Shun, fully committing to try and take him down there, and just doesn't even have nearly enough power to, to get to him, and he's going to be able to just walk off and, look to reset and reapply some more pressure here probably pretty soon.
Yeah, Disconnector almost able to catch Miller off guard there in the top lane. And while this is going on, Illinois State has been claiming lots and lots of vision control toward that bot side river. And with the Drake spawning in 3 seconds now, doesn't look like OSU is going to be able to contest it. So Illinois State will reach Soul Point here.
Yeah, Cyborg and Steve bullied out of even mid lane at this point. Nuclear taking complete control of that, and Illinois State taking the Dragon as well means OSU's fully committed to making some sort of play up here in the top lane. Disconnector trying to just get reset, and so most likely Shun's going to look to just take that inner tower. But regardless, not at the best of trades for OSU, but didn't try and overforce anything in the bot side of the map, and so they're going to still be even here as Disconnector might be in trouble.
Yeah, there's going to be a big fight to try to take down Disconnector. A great polymorph is going to claim the advantage for Ohio State, and yeah, 1v3, even with Hullbreaker, seems to just be almost too much, actually. Disconnector
rough stopwatch.
Deals a lot of damage. The stopwatch is almost unfavorable, but they're just able to take down the Graves.
Yeah, Miller didn't quite trust his damage there, so now Steve's in a lot of trouble.
Ooh. A great flash in from GFB puts Best Steve on really low health and just unable to contest any of this because getting anywhere near that Xin Zhao again would mean death.
Yeah, Tempo's Time as well, able to keep all of Illinois State really healthy here. They're able to just pressure this mid inhib as the top play didn't go as they wanted to. It took a lot longer. And so, Illinois State just had a lot of free time in the mid lane where Steve couldn't really do anything to protect the mid inhib, and so they end up losing out on that. And Illinois State going to have a really nice advantage with that inhib down, with the Dragon spawning in just under 4 minutes.
Yeah, that pressure is certainly something to talk about, but Ohio State, especially Best Steve, might be wanting a little bit of extra farm, so that's something to keep in mind. But then again, the pressure and the Dragon and everything, the objectives that Illinois State has been able to claim and just lay on Ohio State has been just keeping OSU that far behind.
Yeah, even with Steve's pit stop on the Hex Drinker there, taking a full rotation from Drew almost killed him there, so he's got to be really careful. Obviously, he'll have that cooldown backup for the Dragon, so no worries on that end, but just with the fact with, how much damage he's able to do, he sacrificed a lot of damage, especially for an ADC, to go into that Hex Drinker, and so to still barely survive with it is really rough for Steve, as it's just going to be, a loss of a lot of power for him that they desperately need.
Both teams are looking to claim a little bit of vision control around this Baron by the looks of it, and looks like a control ward is going to be taken out by GFB, but it would be really, no Baron yet. Looks like they're just going to try to push this top lane and claim the tower.
Yeah, Miller's up now about 2 levels still on GFB. So Illinois State presses for this outer tower. I'd love to see Miller try and play around this Graves, side lane that they're trying to contest, but instead looking onto the top lane here.
Yeah, and it looks like the fight's going to break out. We're going to be 4-on-3. OSU Inferno engaging, and Nuclear is able to deal so much damage. Miller's going to have to try to get him out of this fight. Cyborg also low on health. Shun goes down. The Aphelios grabs a double kill. OSU Cyborg, the last one remaining. Drew Dozer able to take him out, and a horrific loss for Ohio State in that top lane.
Yeah, really struggling. When they weren't able to kill that Aphelios, unfortunately, on that first round, Inferno instead having to opt into going for Tempo's time. It's really tough for OSU to fight into that Aphelios with the red and white guns. He just heals for so much, and he really has no problem with OSU walking into his range, especially with, so many cooldowns being blown on his teammates and Tempo's time providing a bit of survivability for him. OSU just couldn't find the angle that they've needed in some of these fights to get on him and take him out quickly, and so instead he's able to survive through it and pump out a lot of damage onto OSU there.
Yeah, and speaking of the other pressure, they take advantage of it. They take advantage of the death timers, and now there is a Baron for the side of Illinois State. And with the inhib still down, this was going to put a lot of pressure, and Illinois State could be looking to end this game sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and unfortunately for OSU, that Ocean Drag spawning in just over a minute, gonna be a really big pickup for Illinois State here, regardless of how easy it is for them to use it. Still a really nice soul for them to pick up, and like you mentioned, with that inhib down, now the Baron buff as well, it's going to be almost impossible for OSU to walk in and get control of this Dragon, and so unfortunately they may have to try and just take a really risky fight, as now Shun looking on the Nuclear.
Yeah, Shun gets a really good engage and a really good ult, which actually allows OSU to get into this fight. Disconnector's going to show up though, and now Tempo's time is dealing damage. Inferno responds with whatever he can, but he's barely going to be able to get out of there. Preserve the steals on the Dark Stack, and yeah, Illinois State had a little bit of a misstep at the very start of that fight, but now are in command and control of grabbing this Dragon.
Yeah, you hate to see that for OSU. Able to grab such a nice pick on the Nuclear and still barely going even in that fight, having to back off. Not a great sign for OSU here as the Ocean Drake is getting ready to spawn. Miller having to potentially look onto Drew here in the mid lane, but with really no way of contesting the Dragon.
Yeah, and no contesting the Dragons means it's going to go down, but another thing that can't be contested is that Drew Dozer has lost his life while pushing mid lane, so a little bit of an overextension OSU is able to punish.
Yeah, a nice bounty picked up for OSU for really no reason. Drew, I don't think he really needed to apply that pressure on OSU to prevent them from coming to the Dragon. They pretty much had it in their hands. He certainly, could have been in mid lane like he was, but he didn't need to step up as far as he did. And so a nice punish for OSU to grab, and a big shutdown as well, as Inferno continues to scale up, being a really big component of this OSU team fighting comp, able to, one-shot, at least one, hopefully two, of Illinois State's carries or squishier members if they're hoping to win some of these fights.
Oh yeah, Miller could be in a little bit of trouble here if he gets caught out. Yeah, his ability's going to run out, but now he's got his teammates to back him up, and there is a 4v3 here. I don't know if Illinois State's aware of what's going on behind the bushes, and doesn't seem like it, but OSU's not going to get a great engage on it anyway, so not much to take advantage of there.
Yeah, Miller had a pretty nice flank there, but Nuclear with the Gale Force able to just get away from the Spectre Maw, and so no big engage ending up happening there for OSU, but a good look and a nice cooldown to grab from this Aphelios, who's already pretty immobile.
Yeah, and now there's more pressure getting put back on this inhib. It's just respawned, and Baron buff is still on Illinois State's side, and they're going to look to take advantage of it. Looks like a fight's going to fall out. Disconnector is going to be able to grab this bottom inhibitor, and that's going to put a lot of pressure now. They lose the mid inhib, and OSU is just falling back. They're aware of the pressure and the Baron buff and what it's done, even though it just wore off.
Yeah, Nuclear dropped a big Moonlight Vigil there, completely chunking out Steve and a couple other members of OSU, having to back off. Cyborg now having to pop the Wild Growth as well as Inferno looks to go in.
Yeah, OSU has to fight this, otherwise the pressure on the Nexus is just going to be done for. Looks like Azir does move in, grabs a great ult, but none of his teammates are there to back him up, and a flurry of kills coming in for Illinois State means they're going to grab this game. Steve, the last one remaining, stuck in their own fountain, and this game is over.
Yeah, Steve able to pick one up there, but unfortunately OSU just let, some of this scaling for the side of Illinois State get out of hand there for game one. And unfortunately, it will go over to Illinois State as OSU is going to look to have to bounce back in game two.
Yeah, it looked like a pretty good start, like right at the very beginning for Ohio State. They were claiming jungle control. They had pushed them back at their towers, but Illinois State is able to just play it well. That Xin Zhao, all that pressure on the bot lane, and then the Aphelios snowball just was never stopped by Ohio State.
Yeah, OSU taking a couple really costly missteps. Xin Zhao, GDP able to get a really nice play, two nice plays actually, onto the OSU bot lane, and really setting OSU's bot lane behind when they needed to be ahead. Miller not putting nearly as much early pressure on, not matching the Xin Zhao, and unfortunately, it kind of just went uncontested, and, OSU's way to get through that early game and punish this heavily scaling team that Illinois State had just kind of fell through. And so unfortunately, going even getting ahead with some risky plays as well and some well executed dives on the bot lane, Illinois State able to claim a pretty clean game one there.
Yeah, it was back and forth at the start, and OSU always looked like they had a glimpse back into it, but eventually the objectives diff caught up to them. They had the Soul, they had the Baron. There was barely any vision control, and the world just seemed to collapse on their Nexus.
Yeah, hopefully OSU looking to reclaim the world in game two, though. We're going to head to a short break real quick, but we'll see you on the other side for hopefully OSU bouncing back. And welcome back, everyone, for the final week, game two here of CLOL for the regular season. Big playoff implications on the line for the side of Ohio State, and looked a little bit rough in game one there, but hopefully looking to bounce back here with a new game plan, maybe.
Yeah, so we saw a really good scale from Illinois State in the last game, so I'm expecting OSU to switch up their champ select a little bit, but I think one of the biggest areas OSU suffered that last game was just in vision, because they got caught off in the bot lane and in a lot of other places many times just because there was superior warding and control in that regard from Illinois State.
Yeah, you said it best, honestly, as we hop into game two draft here. Another Zilean ban first from OSU, staying on the blue side here, and so nothing too crazy. Again, we already talked about the Zilean pick, but definitely very strong.
Yeah, looks like we got the same two starting bans. Galio and Zilean are gone.
Yeah, Shun, loves playing that Galio. I believe it's his most played champ in solo queue, and so not surprised to see that one go at all, as it does create a lot of that pressure, and especially if Illinois State's going to be going for a more scaling comp. Not surprised at all to see that they don't want to have to deal with the Galio constantly putting pressure on the side lanes.
Yeah, Galio with all that really, really good engage and just the ability to hone down on single targets and all that, it's a huge threat, so...
Yeah, the Zarya and Corki bans as well for OSU, both, the same as last game, and probably picked for the same reasons, as we see the Graves now picked up instead, though, for the first pick for OSU.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's interesting. We just saw the exact same bans as game one unfold, but luckily the first pick is different, so...
Yeah, not too surprised to see these, honestly. The bans I don't think were really the issue. I think everything that both sides took away made sense, and instead I think it was where they went after that. and how they actually executed their game plans as well. As the Karthus is now picked up for the side of Illinois State, a really nice flex pick. To match the Graves that they're able to sell in really to any of the 3 lanes or the jungle.
Yeah, he's definitely can be a threat all over the place. So they are going to grab another pick, and it looks like they are going to grab the Lulu, and it looks like that's going to be on the Illinois State side of things this time. We'll see how OSU responds with their picks.
Yeah, interesting pickup. It makes me think that the Lulu, again, probably isn't going to be going to the bot lane, though I was wrong last game on the side of OSU. But matching the Lulu with a potential Karthus ADC doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, and so I think you actually lose out on a bit of the flex pressure that both picks carry. So I'm a little surprised to see that one picked up there, but most likely just wanting to take that away from Cyborg, as they already took away the Thresh in the bans, and it's definitely, I think, his most comfortable pick behind that.
Yeah, it looks like OSU is seeing a little bit of that pressure on their support. They might be picking up Leona here, just to make sure that no more champs fall out of the graphs. But the other thing is the Aphelios pick. Seems like OSU saw the success that Illinois State had with that, and they want to try their hand at it.
Yeah, not a bad pickup for OSU here. Pairing the Aphelios with the Leona. Love to see, potentially an aggressive jungler here, whether it's the Graves or something picked up in their last 2 picks, to match with that more aggressive Aphelios lane. We see the Vayne picked up as well, so most likely going bot lane with the Lulu, meaning Karthus is going to be on the top side of the map. But yeah, to have an aggressive jungler for the side of OSU, I think, is big. If you're going to opt into pairing the Aphelios with a more aggressive CC support like Leona as opposed to an Enchanter, you lose out on some of that later safety that the shield and healing can provide, but you do gain some more opportunities to get a lead early for the Aphelios. And so I'd love to see Ohio State take advantage of that. They struggled with getting that bot lane advantage early last game, and so hopefully they're willing to make some adjustments and make that work in this game.
Yeah, there goes the Viego. I think that's a good ban from Illinois State. Viego was one of the best, the shining lights for the Ohio State team comp last time. So once again, we see a Gragas ban, and there's also a Malphite ban. So a lot of focus on the top lane for Ohio State's bans there.
Yeah, and I like the Silas ban as well for the side of Illinois State. Both Inferno and Shun can play it, both with that mid lane experience. They're both very comfortable on it, I think. And so as a flex pick, I think it's very good for them to ban out, even though, OSU is going to be picking both of their fourth and fifth picks here at the same time. So it wouldn't be flexed too hard. It's still a really comfortable champ, I think, especially for Inferno. And so not surprised to see that one taken away.
Yeah, and we're going to see an Ornn pick, which is just one of the tankiest champs in the game. So as opposed to last game where we just saw all squish, this time we've got Leona and Ornn. Both of those sport a lot higher defenses and HP than we last saw, and a Yasuo pick coming through for Ohio State.
Yeah, another comfort pick for Shun. Not too surprised to see that one picked up, especially with the Diana, bringing a lot of focus to that mid-jungle duo that Miller and Shun will hopefully be able to pull off here. But hopefully also providing some of that early pressure in the bot lane for OSU that they're going to need, especially into this Lulu Vayne and really the whole comp that Illinois State has so far. It'll be interesting to see, as it looks like with their Renekton hovered, the Karthus might be going to the mid lane. But yeah, Illinois State drafting another really hard scaling comp. And so the Diana Yasuo pickup I really like for OSU to take advantage, early on in the game with the strong 2v2, the strong combo in some of these mid-game fights, especially paired with the Leona, should make fighting around, dragons, earlier on in the game much easier for them and give them a lot of opportunities to get ahead in the game, where they have some of these, the Aphelios, the Yasuo that are able to scale alongside, or in comparison on the same level as the Vayne and the Karthus, but also have more opportunities to get ahead than I think what Illinois State has picked.
Yeah, I think this is definitely a good mix-up for both teams. Ohio State's definitely, as you were saying, they've got some better scalers this time. They've got Aphelios, and even Graves to some extent is going to do well, but we've got a lot of good responses from the Illinois State side of things on the draft too. They've certainly got their ins, they've got their options on the game, so it'll be interesting to see where it goes.
Yeah, and the Renekton actually going to be heading into the mid lane. Didn't even notice that, but obviously we already had the Ornn for top lane, so it does make sense that the Karthus is actually going into the jungle. It makes really, I think, even the early aggression for Ohio State in the Diana pick and even the Yasuo-Diana combo even better for them, because that Karthus is going to be a lot weaker earlier on, susceptible to invades and things like that. So hopefully OSU can take advantage of a lot of that and be able to push their advantages more easily in this game to get ahead early, because that was really their biggest downfall in game one. And so I think they have a lot more opportunities in this game and more tools to use. So hopefully we'll see them taking advantage of those.
Yeah, well, we're going to see all those opportunities and tools play out for both teams very soon. But before that, we've got a break. So we'll see you after that. Welcome back, everybody. We're going to jump right into Game 2 here. Not too much more to talk about, but Ohio State has a 5-man stack on this. GFP might have just spotted it, though. Yeah, he did. He knows now, and now it's going to be hard for OSU to capitalize on this.
Yeah, GFD actually grabbing quite a bit of poke there. Opting into taking the first strike on Karthus is interesting in the jungle. Obviously not really trading with anyone like you would be in a lane, and so you don't have a ton of opportunities to proc that. I know a lot of people often end up opting into Dark Harvest instead, but grabbing some nice value out of it there. And as well in the draft, I didn't, really touch too much on the Renekton pick, but it makes a lot of sense in the mid lane into Yasuo. It's a very difficult matchup for Yasuo to play, and so though Renekton mid is, pretty unorthodox, I think it makes a lot of sense here. But if it goes, if the Yasuo goes more unpunished and Drew isn't able to take advantage of him, it'll be interesting to see, because it is going to fall off later on in the game. And with the Karthus being really their only source of AD damage, it may be a little rough for Illinois State to, find a lot of opportunities later on into the game.
Yeah, Renekton very good at engaging and getting up close, and he's got a lot of that really good gap close, which is hard for Yasuo to deal with sometimes. So.
Yeah, as well as the shield break on the empowered W allows him to trade really easily into the Yasuo. And so, unlike a lot of mid lane matchups, doesn't have to worry about the range really, but does have to worry about just the melee power as we see him going on here.
Yeah, Drew Dozer gets level 2 before Shun and is able to almost effectively punish him, but no kills are going to come through. Each mid laner is just going to be left on low HP as they kind of stand a little bit far away from each other after they know what just happened.
Yeah, both ignites popped there, but I think Drew actually takes that one, or takes the advantage off of that one, just given the way this lane plays out. Keeping that Yasuo low on health, puts so much pressure on him to, just die really at any time, especially with Flash still available. Being able to flash onto Shun with that empowered W is really scary, whereas Shun, it's going to take a lot longer and a lot more circumstances for him to be able to go onto the Renekton. And, the Renekton even has more sustain, so able to just play the lane more comfortably than Shun will be, even though it was an even trade.
Yeah, OSU Inferno is putting a lot of pressure on this Ornn top lane, pushing him back quite a bit. Kind of expected to be like this early on. Ornn, being the tank that he is, doesn't really have a lot of damage to dish back on Inferno, so...
Yeah, as long as Inferno's able to stay away from that Bellows Breath like he did there, he's really going to be have an easy time to take some of these trades, as Drew now goes in, takes 2 tower shots, but still able to out-trade Shun. Like I mentioned, he's fine taking these even trades, even if it means trading evenly with the tower shots, just because he keeps that lethal, that lethal range so much easier than Shun can early on.
Ooh, and a really good engage from Miller right there. Able to give OSU the first blood, but unfortunately will fall to the tower shots. So not quite the advantage OSU wanted, but still a trade and moves things along here.
Yeah, and still really okay, I think there for OSU to trade that. Ooh, Drew goes almost lethal.
Oh.
Does find Shun, and that's what I was talking about. That flash with the empowered W just does so much. That lethal range is so big early on in the game. And so Drew does take advantage of it there and trades 1 for 1, but GFD able to push the lane out for Drew and, end up making it probably better for the side of Illinois State.
Disconnector is just, he's having a little bit of fun watching this, watching Inferno recall and sending in his little poke saying, hey, don't go back yet. I want you here.
Yeah. That going back to that top lane trade, Miller and Disconnector both grabbing a kill there. But Disconnector did lose a lot of minions under tower that Inferno was able to, push in before he got his reset off. And also, you know, just the Ornn getting the kill versus the Diana getting the kill, I think you're always going to be happy as the Diana in that one. I don't think the Ornn's going to do a ton with that gold compared to what the Diana can now do. Hopefully, you know, wanting to see some of this pressure now that Miller has potentially pushed into the bot lane to try and get Steve and Cyborg some kills maybe down there.
Oh, Yasuo, really unfortunate. He's actually going to get caught under tower and get stunned and falls to the Renekton, and that's not what you want to see this early on in the game.
Yeah, he gets a little too deep, taking a couple tower shots there, and I respect, you know, trying to make that final play there, trying to get his ult off at the last second before that tower shot went off, and at least trade the kills onto Drew before the last tower shot got him, but not able to grab that, and ends up being a pretty big, costly mistake for Shun now, as Drew's going to be able to take control of the lane for a little longer.
Oh, OSU Inferno is just caught out there. Ornn hits the level 6 first, and he's able to hit that ultimate. GFP came in, but honestly, wasn't even really necessary. Ornn was going to have that kill pretty much every single time.
Yeah, even being the tank that he is, Ornn has a lot of those high base damages early on, and so it's still really scary, especially for a squishier champ like the Graves. You know, even with the armor stacking that he gets with his E passive, the Ornn doing so much magic damage, able to just, you know, get enough to all in him there. And so even though the window is pretty short for Disconnector, he does find it there, and with the safety of GFD, has no problem taking it and picking up the kill there.
Yeah, Best Steve is struggling a little bit on this bot lane. He's lost some CS. He's gotten the wave pushed under his tower, so they are going to have a chance to respond here. Illinois State's going to recall, but is Leona going to look to stop it? No, she will not. Not right now.
Yeah, Disconnector moving down onto Miller here, who's level 6, looking for the Diana Yasuo combo.
Oh, and he's going to have almost an opportunity, but GFB is able to take him down before they're able to make anything of it.
Yeah, Miller hit level 6 there and, you know, wanted that combo with the Diana and Yasuo ult so badly, but I think forced it a little too hard there, unfortunately, and ended up just getting exhausted and taken down there before anything really happened. Unfortunate for the side of OSU, as, you know, yeah, they still haven't really been able to push this Diana advantage anywhere on the map yet, and bot lane, like you mentioned, falling a bit behind here to this Vayne Lulu lane that's going to get really scary for them.
Yeah, Vayne is just a super scary champ. The true damage and everything just makes it so it's really, really hard to defend against her in any capability.
Yeah, and Drew continuing to push forward with the Serrated Dirk and Caulfield's Warhammer, having so much bonus AD right now. This is the time that he wants to keep applying his pressure, and so you'll notice he keeps going for these trades, taking a tower shot or two onto both Shun and now Miller as well there. Perfectly fine with it because he can actually out-trade it with that Empowered W. And so he takes those trades and just keeps chipping them down. And once they're in lethal range with the Slice and Dice and, you know, when he has his flash available, just provides so much space in the lane that Shun isn't really able to pick up a lot of the CS, and it's showing in the almost 30 CS difference in the mid lane.
Yeah, oh, that is not looking good. While in the meantime, Aphelios has clawed back a little bit from the early game deficit that he was in, so that's good from the Ohio State side of things, but they're yet to claim any advantage as far as kills are concerned. But Steve is going to hit level 6 before anyone else, so a possible advantage to be gained here, but Illinois State's going to play it safe. They're going to stay by their tower for now.
Yeah, I like Steve taking an aggressive trade there. That obviously Miller is on the bot side of the map here, and now looking potentially for a dive onto Tempos and Nuclear. But with that level 6 advantage, you know, I really like to see that pressure applied, even though they have been playing the lane pretty even. To look for little advantages like that shows that they're, you know, thinking a lot about when they can try and find these kills that they need to start picking up.
Yeah, that's definitely something to consider, but looks like all level 6 on the bot lane now. All ults are online, so each team is going to be pretty wary about what that means and what kind of pressure they can put on while they're doing that. But in the meantime, Leona looks like she is going to roam, but a ward is going to give it away, even though Ohio State doesn't know it. So Drew Dozer shouldn't be in too much trouble here.
Oh, Miller pops his ultimate there. A little bit interesting. Not sure if that was a misclick or what, but not going to find anyone with it. And that's a pretty big cooldown for Illinois State to take advantage of as they look to just press onto this first dragon now.
Yeah, you were mentioning how the Diana Yasuo could help with taking dragons. Well, Upon it popping, they're going to move toward a dragon, but Drudos is going to be in a lot of trouble here. He goes in on Yasuo without realizing that Cyborg had rotated up, and that's going to be able to give Ohio State a kill and a little bit of an advantage for the Yasuo on the mid lane, but there's still a 20 CS deficit there, and Illinois State's probably not going to be too beaten up considering they got a dragon out of the deal.
Yeah, Disconnector now going on to Inferno, has to flash away from the Ignite. But yeah, like you were mentioning, you know, unfortunately, with Illinois State having 3 members on the Dragon there, Drew thought he was safe enough to walk up there and take the all-in, a very aggressive play onto Shun. But because Cyborg and Steve were so pushed in and didn't really have any bot side pressure there, Cyborg actually just roamed up behind the Dragon Pit. And so, you know, typically he would have had to cross through the 3 members that were on the Dragon, but instead able to get to mid lane pretty safely.
Cyborg is going to be able to successfully engage on this Ornn once again and claim the kill on the top side. So once again losing the dragon, but Cyborg has successfully rotated to both mid and top lane and claimed a kill both times. So quite an impressive showing there.
Yeah, although they hadn't found really many advantages in the bot lane, Cyborg, like you said, taking a lot of advantage in both mid and top lane, finding 2 really nice kills and trying to claw back some of these deficits that their solo lanes had. Especially after Disconnector hadn't quite finished off Inferno, you know, on the all-in that he went for. It's a really good play for him to look for, is now GFB going on to Steve.
Yeah, GFB was definitely applying a lot of pressure there. Steve still wants to stick around and wants to fight, but it's not quite going to be a great idea with the other bot laners so close.
Yeah, Drew's got Shun pushed in the mid lane as well, meaning he can't really roam down either. I guess it was Inferno, actually. My apologies, covering that mid lane. But either way, you know, the mid lane for Ohio State not able to rotate down and really help out in the bot lane. And so Illinois State has that freedom to push forward and zone OSU's bot lane off their wave. So good play by them, unfortunately for OSU. But they are looking now, potentially.
Oh, Nuclear is going to come out of the bush here and absolutely catch Steve off guard. But unfortunately, Nuclear is also going to get caught off guard a little bit. Nuclear is barely walking away from this fight, and I'm not sure why OSU wouldn't want to chase that.
Yeah, seemed almost like a miscommunication there. OSU not really focused, but now Drew going in.
Ooh, the ult from Drew Dozer is just devastating for Ohio State. Miller is going to claim the life of Nuclear. Nuclear was trying to get herself killed under tower there, which would have granted no gold to Ohio State, but luckily Diana catches that out. Miller sees it, and now with this slight advantage on HP and everything, they could choose to go in, but it's still quite risky for them to do so. But Drew Dozer decides that he does want to go in because OSU seems to have rotated off just a little too soon. There was still full presence there, and Yasuo just gets caught by himself.
Yeah, the Prowler's Crawl for Drew adds so much, you know, so much space for Drew to work with between his dashes, and now adding that one on top of it as well, you know, gives so much room for him to potentially look for a lethal play onto Shun, as he found there. But yeah, I'm not surprised, or I'm not too sure what Nuclear was doing there. After he got away, OSU seemed to just, you know, have a miscommunication and got a little greedy, not quite finishing him off. Instead, you know, moving their eyes towards other members of Illinois State. And so Nuclear actually had a get out of jail free card there, trying to, you know, are able to get away, but instead got greedy, stuck with the team, and ended up having to try and get himself executed instead, giving Miller, you know, a nice kill.
Yeah, a kill that Miller is definitely going to appreciate as always. You always want extra gold. You always want to stop your enemy's teams from laning, so always something good to see there. A lot of action here in this mid lane. Everybody's kind of doing their own skirmishes, but both teams aren't ready to fight in this area yet, so.
Yeah, Miller looking to press that advantage again, does have the Moonfall available, and so he's definitely looking for a play, though. He is on the opposite side of Shun, so they're not looking for quite that combo, but even just paired with Cyborg and Inferno as well, they're still able to lock down, you know, a lot of members on Illinois State pretty easily if they find the right opportunity. And so we've noticed them kind of moving together, looking for these plays, and currently looking on mid lane.
Ooh. Yeah, mid lane's almost going to get crunched on by Ohio State, but this Graves is in a 1v2 in the bot lane, so he's going to realize that. He's going to back off. Luckily, before the Karthus went around. Karthus came from the top side rather than the river, which just scares off the Graves, but now we might be seeing a fight here. Ornn is going to get his ult canceled, actually. That's quite big, but OSU unable to capitalize on it. Oh, Miller's going to go in and hit a great ult, and Shun's going to be able to move in on it, claiming a double kill. But in the meantime, Drudozer is going to be able to put a lot of pressure on Steve. Disconnector still fighting with 2. Disconnector is going to go down. Steve is actually able to kill Drudozer on the dive. Nuclear, the last one standing for Illinois. And he's just going to choose to leave with his life while OSU claims their first Drake.
Yeah, Miller found a really big angle there with the 3-man Diana ult onto Illinois State. They didn't see it coming at all, willing to just flash in there and find a really big combo for him and Shun. And so the rest of Illinois State tried to move forward onto Ohio State's backline as Ohio State moved onto theirs, but went a little bit too far, and Steve picking up that kill onto Drew as he dove onto him is huge for them because it meant that OSU could continue that fight and didn't really have any pressure on their backline anymore, as they could now then rejoin the rest of their team and finish off the fight with a pretty big victory for OSU there.
Yeah, that's going to be big for OSU. Not only claiming the kill advantage, but then also claiming the Drake, because we saw last game Illinois State was able to just snowball with their Drakes and take their advantages and just deny Ohio State any of that. So denying an early soul on either side is going to be happy for both of them, but I'm sure both teams is a little more disappointed to see that it's going to be Cloud Soul. So
yeah, definitely, pretty much completely more useless soul for both teams here than the Ocean Soul that we saw last game. It's definitely disappointing for both sides, both with 1 drag, not really looking to stack soul anytime soon anyways, but definitely disincentivizes it even further at this point, as both teams maybe just looking instead to, pressure elsewhere on the map as this game moves forward.
Yeah, and as I was talking about vision control last time, Ohio State had it just a bit ago, but seems like Illinois State's reclaimed almost full vision control toward that bot side river, so going to be hard to see the ganks and everything coming, but it's also been interesting with some of the position swapping that's been going around. We've had a Graves versus Renekton bot lane for a while.
Yeah, Miller now on to Disconnector with Cyborg up here as well. The Solar Flare goes quite wide, but Cyborg's still able to finish off the kill there pretty easily. And yeah, like you mentioned, the side lane match have kind of been switching up, and so it's interesting to see OSU, most likely wanting to keep that Yasuo into the Ornn and the Graves into Renekton, but Illinois State wanting the opposite. Obviously, it's an interesting little game that they've been playing between each other, trying to get those optimal side lane matchups for themselves.
Oh yeah, Ohio State's going to have to watch out. Drudozer is rotating, and he's been really close, but they decide not to crash onto the tower. Probably wise. They don't really have a ton of vision on where Diana was, and no minions to absorb damage as they engage. So Ohio State looks like quite a few of them are going to recall. They're going to reset a little bit, and the waves are going to crash to each other in the middle of mid. So
yeah, OSU also finally going to be pretty relieved to have a gold lead for themselves. They didn't really have one for most of that first game, and so to be in the lead here and have some pressure is going to be very nice for them, as it gives OSU Cyborg, who's on this Leona this game as opposed to the Lulu, a lot more freedom to face check more areas of the map, keep up that vision like you've been so diligent about, and give them a lot more opportunities to set up plays, especially with the pick power that the Diana Yasuo brings.
Yeah, and it looks like OSU Inferno is he's gonna move in on Drudozer, taking the Krugs, but Renekton Drudozer is able to back off after that. He's aware of the threat that this Graves can have, and it looks like Shun wanted to rotate toward bot side, but I don't know if he's gonna do it anymore after finding that control ward.
Yeah, exactly. Inferno able to find the favorable matchup side laning against Disconnector, but now going in.
Ooh. That was a really good wind wall from Yasuo, denying the early damage from Nuclear, but Nuclear is still able to claim the kill, and despite a well-placed Diana ult into Yasuo, just doesn't quite claim the kill.
Yeah, even with the nice Diana and Yasuo combo there, just overchased a little bit after Tempo's time, and Nuclear really blew everything there to keep him alive. Still kept chasing and unfortunately got punished for it. The Vayne able to dish out just enough damage and keep herself moving around with her tumbles and the stealth as well, that OSU couldn't finish her off and should have instead just taken what they got.
Oh, but they are going to be able to take GFB. Karthus is going to be stuck under tower, but they're going to respect Karthus' dead body, which of course can still sling out spells, so you got to watch out for that. But in the meantime, we're going to get a full-fledged team fight. Miller's going to have to drop an Hourglass, and Miller's still going to go in. Miller does not yet have ult, was unable to set up for the Yasuo. Inferno is also going to get caught out, deals a lot of damage, a valiant effort, but not enough to keep OSU in the team fight, as the rest of them recall, and decide to just back off before they lose anything else.
Yeah, unfortunately not the best fight for OSU there, and so Miller was actually stuck, pretty far in, ended up just kind of sacrificing himself, wasn't really any way for him to get out, and almost got Nuclear, but then Inferno flashing in a little late, and it was a bit disjointed for OSU there. He was really the only one in there, going in right after Miller died, and especially with that hull breaker on the Graves, just not very strong in the midst of a team fight, not able to finish off Nuclear himself, and so a lot of gold thrown at Illinois State. Unfortunately, as OSU just slightly off, the same page as each other once again.
Yeah, and off of the advantage of that, Illinois State is able to apply pressure, which grabs a first tier top turret, and they're able to grab the Drake on the bot lane. So Illinois State's got to be ecstatic about what just happened. That's going to set them with a very pretty lead. Nothing OSU can't overcome, but OSU was finding their way back into this game, and now it's became just as rough as it was before. So
yeah, and we saw Drew up in the top lane, matching Shun there again. Illinois State found their advantage in the side lane, and so pushing that, even with Cyborg up there, dropping another Cyborg special with the Solar Flare, almost 1v2'd Shun and Cyborg up there. And so, again, very scary for this Yasuo to try and side lane into the Renekton. Hopefully OSU can try and find, with the Graves mostly, with the Hull Breaker, his more advantageous side lane into this Renekton, so that OSU can look for, plays like this on the Baron.
This is risky, but OSU has noticed that Illinois State had no vision around the Baron, and they're actually able to just steal it right under Illinois State's nose. They were all in the top jungle there, just clearing the camps and looking out for it, and what a steal, honestly. That is something everybody you dream about, but doesn't always happen.
Yeah, a little bit of desperation went a long way there for OSU. Is now in the mid lane.
Oh, and they're going to take advantage of this Baron buff. Nuclear's going to fall really low in HP, but you got to watch out when they're in that bush. Oh, it's going to cost Miller his Baron buff, and Steve is going to be in a pretty bad situation too. Barely able to escape. Nuclear's going to come in. Nuclear could get caught off guard. They got to watch out here. Yeah, Nuclear's gone.
Yeah, Nuclear once again stepping up way too far, even after a really, well-played defensive effort on the Yasuo-Diana combo. Got himself out of that pretty easily, but overstepping again, like we saw earlier in that bot lane play. And so hands over, a nice kill to Steve. But as I was trying to say, yeah, so I'm not sure. This Renekton is, doing a lot of work now, prowling on to Steve and doing so much damage, doing pretty much the same thing that he does to Shun as well when they get that side lane matchup for themselves. But OSU able to find that Baron, still a really big gold advantage.
Oh, Cyborg is just absolutely going to get caught off guard. There is no way out of that one. Drew Dozer is going to take him down, and he's going to once again flash his mastery for a little bit of flex.
Yeah, Disconnector now stepping up, but knows he has his team in the topside jungle. Miller, though, looking to Rocket Belt in and maybe look for something.
Yeah, OSU's still looking for their little advantages here. Miller's looking to poke with the Moonstrike there. Shun is around. We're still looking to get that Diana Yasuo combo to do something great. We saw a little bit of it earlier, but it hasn't really shown its face in its full power quite yet. So
yeah, they found quite a few opportunities onto Nuclear, but with tempos, getting some pretty timely, ultimates and shields onto Nuclear, able to survive those with the cleanse as well. So it actually hasn't really killed immediately yet, but we've seen, carries for Illinois State be completely taken out of fights pretty quickly. It's just when OSU needs to try and finish them off through some of the shielding and healing that they've had trouble. Is now Steve looking a bit caught out in mid lane.
Oh, Steve is just, there's no getting yourself out of that. Steve is absolutely caught out. Now Drew Dozer is going to catch out Cyborg. Cyborg is able to use a burst plant to get away from it. And in the midst of all this, Shun has split push bot lane a little bit. He's going to be able to grab one turret, but now he's going to have to recall because Illinois State is going to be pressing on an inhib.
Yeah, OSU willing to take that trade of towers, though. They do give up their mid-inner tower, but getting that outer tower gives them a little bit more map pressure potentially as they look to maybe set up for this next dragon, though. Being that it's only their third dragon, they might be willing to give it up as now Drew's going to look onto Shun here.
Oh my goodness, yeah, they're going to engage even under the tower. Drew Dozer just has such a good dive. Nuclear's going to take out Miller, and Drew Dozer just continues with his amazing engage and dive and is able to take out Cyborg. Orin is going to continue. Disconnector just tanking everything as they grab the first tower and the inhib soon enough.
Oh, and Drew flashes forward again with the Ruthless Predator, just absolutely one-shotting Steve, even through the shield, breaking it apart, not caring at all. And Shun barely stayed alive there as well. He did proc his passive shield to prevent that Karth assault from killing him. Otherwise, this game would have almost certainly been over. But regardless, Illinois State still wants to try and end it here.
Oh, OSU Inferno has to actually flash away from that. Drew Dozer is finally going to go down, but it's going to cost OSU one of their Nexus turrets for that to happen.
But it is a nice shutdown onto Shun, as now he might look to press forward with Inferno and Cyborg onto these remaining members of Illinois State.
Yeah, Illinois State, though, knows that the fight is pretty much over. They're going to retreat, and they're going to look to probably claim this Drake on the tail end of things here, as they're just dropping ward after ward as they make their way towards Baron.
Yeah,
Not Baron, sorry, Drake.
No, yeah. With OSU having all 5 members, though, they should definitely look onto this, as now the bush is going to get caught out for Illinois State.
Ooh, what an amazing ult from that Orin. Tempo's Time is still looking in on a disconnector, taking all the damage, and a double kill comes in from
Steve
Karthus.
going in.
Steve gets a little bit of damage in there. Inferno is just taking a mad dash away. There are 3 Illinois State members, all on low health. Shun might be able to take this. The jungler's not able to come in. Shun is actually able to take the dragon. Is he going to be able to take the kills, though? Oh.
He didn't have the wind wall available there. Unfortunate. Shun stayed on the dragon, life stealed off it, and tried to make a hero play there at the end. And I think if he had the wind wall, he might have had the opportunity to do so there. But unfortunately, with these death timers, Cyborg coming up in just 1 second here, Illinois State is going to look to press for the end of the game here, but Cyborg with some lockdown, going to try and stall it out at least.
Yeah, Cyborg here, not much you can do as the support. All you can try to do is to delay this so the rest of your teammates can come in. Miller is going to come in, though, and is absolutely going to take one of them out. Unfortunately, Illinois State is just going to have greater numbers here and greater people. Inferno is going to be able to come in, but they're practically looking to fountain dive this guy. He can put absolutely no pressure out. And this Nexus is just going to get killed by minions while Illinois State is just fountain camping Ohio State.
Yeah, the Nexus just about to go down, but Inferno still keeping high spirits, giving a thumbs up as he autos down this Ornn, taking next to no damage from him. A sad, sad sight for the Buckeyes in this one, as the Nexus does finally fall. A 2-0 victory for Illinois State, meaning that OSU is eliminated from playoff contention, but a well-fought series by both teams either way. Unfortunately, OSU not able to pull it out today, but still put on, a pretty good show and had quite a few nice plays in there, even if they weren't able to take either of the games.
Yeah, we definitely saw a lot of potential and everything with Ohio State. They had some plays, they had some ins, but ultimately they're just not capable of bringing it all out, taking it over the finish line. As you can see, Illinois State was able to do so.
Yeah, unfortunate for OSU, but a nice showing, a great season for them as well in CLOL. And we still have, I believe, some action for the other Premier team as well in their series. And so we'll have to see, but I believe we are going to be doing an interview with one of the team members for OSU. So we'll head to a quick break real quick, but stick around for that. And welcome back, everyone, to the post-game of today's CLOL matchup. I'm joined now by Miller68 after a tough loss, but nonetheless, a great season from you guys in your whole CLOL season, and even a few more matches, I believe, coming up just in other things as well. So tell me a little bit more about how you feel you grew as a player over the split. I know this is your second, I believe, semester here at OSU, but how you grew closer with some of your teammates, how you grew as a player, and really just how you grew as a person.
I mean, I really enjoyed my time on the team, getting closer to my teammates, but competitive league is a very drastic change from solo queue, so it was really hard to adapt at first. And I feel like with our great coaches, then I really grew as a player, and I really improved to a point where I can actually compete and do well against tough teams like the one we just versed.
Yeah, awesome. And how would you say you mentioned that it's a really tough, and I agree, a drastic change between solo queue and competitive. What would you say your biggest change was as a player, having to make that transition, whether it be around, the biggest challenge with either having to learn new champions, adapt to the meta constantly rather than just, playing what you want, or communication? What would you say your biggest challenge was there?
Not feeding. Especially like in solo queue, you can make these risky plays and sometimes it pays off. But in competitive, making these risky plays can lead to losing the game.
Yeah.
while in solo queue, taking a risky play, losing, doesn't lose you as much.
Yeah, definitely agree with you on that. And so, with that being said, anything you want to say to all the Miller 68 fans out there? Anything you
yeah.
want people to look forward to as we head into, these last few matches, and even next year as well? Hopefully seeing you back out there.
Look for me. I'm gonna carry next year.
Awesome. Well, love to hear it from Miller. Thanks again for joining me. Again, after a nice series, well fought. But with that being said, we are going to wrap up here today. Once again, my name is Brayden, joined again by Daniel and Miller now as well. So we will talk to you all later.